Hello, everyone, and welcome from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm speaking to you all the way from a 22-hour plane trip if you want to come through to here. And we've got a great 30 minutes, 25 minutes, and 5 minutes for Q&A session we're going to do with programming for accessibility. You should see my slides here. I'm Rory Preddy, a senior advocate for Microsoft. You can follow me on Twitter, and this is programming for accessibility with the Eclipse IDE. So we're going to look at how you can use the Eclipse IDE to actually go and program with some basic background to accessibility. So first, a little bit about me. I'm 4'1". I'm wearing a black shirt, I'm wearing glasses, and I have achondroplasia, so I have dwarfism. And I've always bolted on, you can see there, bolted on my accessibility requirements. This is my midlife crisis, my BMW 3355. If you want to know what not to do in a midlife crisis, don't buy a car. It's a depreciating asset. But I really make things work. Here's me speaking at a university and lecturing. And here's me trying to get some coffee. And you can see there that's Ethiopian decaf. Don't worry, I don't drink that. But I really make things work. And the problem is when I, like other people who have accessibility requirements, we create something called the Hydra. It's a mythical creature. Now, if you cut one of the heads off, then another one grows. And we're familiar with this in software because it's like, fix one bug in production and another one comes about. And it's the same with accessibility. If we carry on bolting on stuff to fix accessibility, we're going to create the Hydra. So my talk today is how we slay the Hydra without having to give birth to multiple heads. The first thing that we're going to do with the Hydra is that it hates empathy. Now, we all live in an empathy bubble. You've never been me. You've never been 4'1". If you have, tell me, please, how the tricks to the trade. And everyone has and lives in these empathy bubbles. So as you live in these empathy bubbles, it's very hard to slay the Hydra. And if you don't slay the Hydra, then you trying to fix empathy. You'll see here, these people try to create a accessible walkway, and they didn't realize over there that they gave birth to the Hydra. So I've got a plan today. What we're going to do is we're going to define accessibility, what it is and what it isn't. We're going to understand unique accessibility motivators. We're going to set interim milestones by using a SDLC. Then we're going to implement tools. And finally, we're going to look at ways to measure, improve, and automate. So first, what is accessibility? Now, accessibility is the design of products, services, and environments so that everyone, including people with disabilities, can fully experience them. And we at Microsoft have proof that if you do accessible design, inclusive design, and you meet compliance, you will increase your productivity, innovation, and revenue. Accessible companies actually make more revenue because what you're doing is you're not designing for disabilities, you're designing to broaden your scope of people who can use your product. And we also look at not designing for disability, because designing for disability, you're designing for a personal health condition. I went, as part of my midlife crisis, I bought one of those BMI scales. I jumped into the BMI scales. I entered my weight at the time, 65 kilos. I'm actually 50 kilos right now. I've done keto for a while. And I put my height, which is 120 centimeters, 4'1". And then I jumped onto it, and it did a little bit of an AI adjustment. And it called me horrible names. And I felt disabled at that time because I had a mismatched human interaction. So disability doesn't exist. So accessibility, designing the scale should have actually put my physical conditions as part of the marketing and design schematics, and not make me feel disabled. So how do we also define accessibility? And we use the WCAG, the Web Center for Accessibility Guidelines principles. And it's perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So perceivable, can you see it? Now, I have a bit of an eyesight problem on my right eye, and I need glasses to be able to see stuff. Sometimes I can't see stuff, and I'm using a Mac Retina display, and it's so small. I know the irony of a Microsoft staff member who actually, in my day job, I'm a Java advocate, working on a Mac on Chrome and working with accessibility is not lost on me. So perceivable, can you see it? So we're seeing a lot of Immersive Reader changes that are going and making the design principles easier to use. Operable, can you use it? So I'm using a Logitech Spotlight, a Apple Magic Keyboard, a Apple Magic Mouse, and also a trackpad there, because I find, because I'm so short, I can't actually reach my laptop. So I need an operable design principles for my workstation. And it's the same with when you design systems, you need to make them operable. Understandable? Can you understand it? Now, if you have a pointer here and you go like that, now the problem is that people who are neurodiverse might actually find that they can't focus on that pointer. And we've seen that with WCAG recently has included autism spectrum and ADHD into be understandable. And you need to understand that you need to understand that to make something understand is also to make something less stress, especially with this COVID climate. We've understood that we need to lower the stress levels when you work with systems. And robust, it won't break future technologies. So if you've got a phone and you do it landscape to portrait, that's an old school kind of robust feature. And we've seen that now with a website with all the design principles, you don't want to break it if it already kind of works. So you have those design principles there, perceivable, operable, and understandable, and robust. So those are the design principles, and we're going to look at exactly how you can apply them as we go through in the demo and through that. Next, we've got motivators. How do you motivate yourself and others to actually become accessible? So first of all, the legislation, the US 21st Century Digital Experience Act and the EU Parliament Directory of Digital Accessibility says that the big stick will come down on you this year if you're not WCAG 2.1 compliant, like Canada has done. You're going to get a $100,000 fine per day. Remember GDPR, cookies, 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 do you accept, and everything. This is bigger than that. But I don't like to think that this is going to drive it. I like to think that the altruistic, the carrot, is going to really motivate people. And best summed up by Bill Gates' quote, for most of human history, we put our innovative capacity in improving the quantity of life. Because we're living longer, our focus is starting to shift towards improving the quality of life. We're understanding empathy, and we're driving empathy from a sense of pity to sympathy to empathy to compassion. And we're popping that bubble, and we're not going to let the compliance actually let us be the main motivators. We're rather going to be aware of others' difficulties. And we do that by becoming these people that use our system. So introducing Claudia, Ashley, and Ron. Ashley is a 24-year-old arts graduate and administrative assistant. She's severely sight impaired and uses a screen reader. And I become Ashley by going onto the product that I want to test. And then you can access all of these personas by alphagov.github.io, accessibility personas, and you run accessibility labs, persona labs, and you experience the web with the personas with accessibility needs. This is very important because then you can become, and you can pop that empathy bubble, and you can become those individuals that use your system. And at the same time, then you can now start designing a system. You recognize exclusion. We don't cater for Ashley because we don't actually have navigable systems that don't use a mouse or anything. They just use maybe a keyboard. Then solve for one, extend to many. Once you solve for Ashley, she's 24, you can also solve for the silver generation, the generation over 70. And that's $1 billion industry that people, sorry, $1 trillion industry that people can do. Now, when you take friends and families and people who have accessibility needs, that's 3 billion people in the world who have one or more accessibility issues or who have loved ones with accessibility issues. And then it makes really sense to learn from diversity. When we solve for Ashley, then we can actually look at our font size, our font color, and maybe cater for the 1 in 20 men who are colorblind, and cater for Ashley and also those colorblind people. So let's go through a more in-depth persona spectrum example here. So here we have a person, an amputee who has only use of one arm, and they're in the same persona spectrum as someone is in a arm injury or a new parent. And I know what you're thinking, a new parent can't be in a persona spectrum, they don't have accessible needs, but I've been a parent, I've got 2 kids, and I promise you once you're cradling your newborn there, you're both sleep deprived, mentally, physically, and spiritually, you have accessible needs though. But if you go to your manager or your customer, your stakeholders, and you say, I want to cater for the person with the one arm, they're going to say, no, the US Center for Statistics says there's only 26,000 people with that requirement. But when you have the temporary disability and accessible needs and the situational, there's 21 million. So that's why it actually makes financial sense to look at the persona spectrums and to start to program towards that. So we take our persona spectrum and now you superimpose it to your journey work. So this is a ticketing scenario I did for IATA flight conference in Dubai. And then I superimposed it there and I said, instead of your registration, navigation, and checkout, having the classic registration, add to cart, and then ticketing with an experience there, now everything changes. Responsive design, a capture, accessibility help desk, callback help, voice search, and then AI adjustment. Did we meet your requirements? Yes, no. Then go and change the journey work. And how you can do that is by looking at how to dramatically change your milestones. Because normally with your milestones, you can't change your actual journey because you do accessibility right at the end. You've got a shippable product, a deployed system, and accessibility there, and then the hardware is birthed there, and you'll never be able to actually change it in the sprint. And we've seen there with the shift left movement, instead of large investment right at the end to give birth to the hardware, we've got small investments throughout the process, and the accessibility journey looks different. And then we can actually do AI adjustments and adjustments for our journey work, because accessibility is baked into everything we do. And we do that also with that SDLC through tools. So we've got some nice features in the accessibility features in the Eclipse IDE. So first of all, Eclipse actually uses the Microsoft Active Accessibility APIs to render all of the user interfaces accessible to assistive technology. Meaning that if you use Eclipse, you should be able to use a keyboard and a mouse instead of a mouse, and a screen reader or voice recognition software to do your development, to create your tools. You can also use Magnify for graphical views, and then font and colors to aid in visual impairment. But once you have that, you want to design a system, and then we step in with accessibility insights. So we partnered with DQ Labs and Accessibility Insights. I use it every day to actually check all of the content. I'm a Java developer advocate on my day job to check all the accessibility work that I do. So when I publish something on Microsoft Docs and Learns, I can use the Accessibility Insights for web, or I can use the GitHub Actions or the DevOps options, and it checks it automatically for me to make sure that I'm WCAG compliant. And I run it here. You can see there, here's a Maven test here that I run, and I've got all my tests running there. And you can access that Maven test there, github.com/DQ Labs is one of our partners, and then x-core-maven-html, and it will let you do all of those tests for you for that. You can also use the accessibility GitHub Actions. So you can see there, I've got accessibility insights actions there with GitHub Actions. It's brand new. Once you have that, what happens if if you can't actually change your existing websites? So step in Immersive Reader. So if you go into Microsoft Teams, OneNote, or Word, we have Immersive Reader. You just click on it, and it creates an entire immersive experience. And it allows you to actually go in and do language and also neurodiverse changes to allow you to cater for all of the WCAG 2.1 compliance. It can let you look at language. So it gives you language ability. You can translate into, and this is a little bit old, 120 different languages, pronunciation, syllables, and then pictures. What happens also if you want to do image recognition? So we also have computer vision. So we recently won the Facebook No Caps Challenge, and we beat a human individual to actually capture an image. And this is very important. So this image here, it will analyze the people, and then it says Satya Nadella, Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer posing for a photo. And this actually does it better than a human, because I might say there's an individual, he's wearing suits, he's wearing a tie, he's wearing a belt, he's standing outside a building, there's a glass there. It's too much information. So we did AI and also computer vision to beat human captioning, and you can actually use computer vision. So I've got a quick little demo that I've got 16 minutes still that I want to show you here, and then we're going to go in a little bit with some Q&A. So watch this with my Microsoft things. My Apple mouse. I can just go left or no, right, and it just goes over where we're. There we go. And I love the Apple kind of accessibility. I don't have to lean forward and do all of that. So the first thing I want to show you is how to get started. So this is Chrome. And like I said, the irony is not lost on me. And I've got my accessibility insights check-in here. So I've got accessibility insights for web, and I can go in and I can switch on tab stops. And I can go in and I can switch on color if I wanted to. Now I've got tab stops and I can navigate, and I've got the inaccessible and accessible. So inaccessible, they don't have any tab stops. So I can actually go in there and I can test that, and it just dies. Now the accessible, they've actually gone in and done the tab stops. So I can switch on tab stops here, and now I can go in and check, can I navigate with this page correctly, and everything's there. But it's so much more. What they've done here on this page is they've made the accessible and the inaccessible page look very different. So over here, I've got image captioning, and over here, I've got proper list items. But in the inaccessible page here, they've done BR tags on the list items. So screen reader software won't even be able to see it. You can see their BR tags there. And it's terrible because then now, how do I check this? So you can go into the Chrome or Edge plugin here, and you can go into your FastPass. Now, FastPass will check most of the settings you need to do for WCAG 2.1 and see if you're compliant or if you need work. You can also go in for a full assessment, and that's the WCAG 2.1 AA compliance there. But I'm going to click on FastPass here and check this out. It's going to tell me, what? You got 44 issues there with the inaccessible page there. Your color contrast is wrong. It doesn't have a lang tag there. Your alt tags are wrong there. So your image alt. So how are you going to fix all of that? Your link names are wrong and your select names are wrong. But I can also see visually exactly what's going on here. So I can click through that. It'll tell me what I need to fix. And then I can go copy the failure details, inspect the HTML, or I can file the issue straight to GitHub. Look at that. And that is an automation that we've done there. Now, this uses in the background the DQ Labs X engine. Now, I know what you're thinking, but how do I get this if I'm going to use CI/CD? Next little demo that I've got, I'm going to use the Eclipse IDE here. Now, I've got the X Maven plugin here. Sorry, the X Maven project here. And I've got some tests here. So I've got some, let's go into our project. And we've got com DQ HTML. And what this does in the X core, it tests a page. So you can see here in the unit test. And I made the font nice and big and colorful. It's such a wonderful color that we've got here. It goes in and checks test accessibility, and it goes and finds a normal page. And you can go run that test there for the normal page. And what that normal page is, it's just a page that doesn't violate any of the accessibility requirements. And then I've got test accessibility with skip frames, and then test nested frames there. And then I go into some negative tests without any violations there, custom timeout. And I can do all of these tests, and this actually tests whether I am WCAG 2.1 compliance. And I can right-click on that file, and then I can just go run as, and look at how the nice integration that I have with the Eclipse IDE. I can just go JUnit test there with the X Maven plugins, and it'll run through all of those tests there and tell me whether I was successful or not with those pages. So, Rory, that's great and everything, but you're still giving birth to the hardware, because I have to do this as a developer manually in my Eclipse IDE. But I've got this exact same project, and I went in and I took the X core yesterday, and I created a GitHub action to run this. So if I go into Chrome, let's go into Chrome here, and I go into my GitHub project, and I go to /Rory P. And now the top project there should be, so I can show you with quite confidence that I have been working on it here. I go into my repositories here, and I go to the X Core Maven. Now I've forked this project from the DQ Labs there. So I've got DQ Labs there, X Core Maven that you can access. Now I've added a GitHub action. So now every time I do a push, I can actually check it. And now the hard drive will die every time I do a change though. So you can see there, here's the build, and it will run through all of the Maven projects. I've set up JDK. I've got my run test here, and I've got my test report, and we can just run that. And I've got my test report here. 41 tests ran, and I can rerun all the jobs at any given time. I can push, and now the hard drive is going to die because I can have my pages there running, and it will just rinse and repeat and check all of those processes with GitHub Actions. You can see there, I've got the standard personal profile here, so it's like $4 a month that I've got for, and nearly unlimited GitHub Actions that you can run there, and it is testing against those settings there. But what about the Immersive Reader? You promised me, Rory, we're going to show you Immersive Reader here. We still got 10 minutes to go for that. Now I've got my Eclipse IDE here, and I've got my Immersive Reader project. Now the Immersive Reader here is a great little project, and I've assembled it. Now you can actually start from the beginning, and you can go to the SDK and do it, but I've just taken it and I've popped it into Tomcat. So the first thing we want to do, we want to get an authorized service, because Immersive Reader is not only used in Azure, but it's actually used in more Microsoft products. So if I go back to PowerPoint here, check this out. Let's go find PowerPoint here. So if I open up PowerPoint and I go back to the top of my slideshare here, and I click on that person, and they're using a Braille typewriter, but it's a typewriter in front of a computer, and I right-click that, and I go Edit Alt Text. Let me go there, and I go Generate a Description for me. This actually is using computer vision, but all of our AI functionality is actually baked into the Office tools. So if I go into Word or Microsoft Teams, our AI is part of the process to do that. So this is using computer vision to say computer typing on a person typing on that. But in Immersive Reader also, it's a cognitive service that I've got running back in, let's go in here, in my Azure portal here. So let me show you. You go in and create a Immersive Reader cognitive service. Let me log in, and hopefully it won't multi-factor authentication there. And I've got Immersive Reader here, and it's just a service here, and I've got a service principal that is checking that. And this costs me, and I've run this now for 2 years, it costs me 2 US cents, and I can do 1 million transactions on it. So that's how powerful it is. Now I took this, and using the Eclipse IDE, I deployed this with Maven. So I've got a little Maven, let's go into my POM here. I've got a little Maven Azure plugin here, so web app plugin, and I've deployed it to West Europe on a v2, and I've called it Tomcat RPZA. Now it's going to get the authorization token, and it's going to go back into my JSP page and tell me via my JSP page, go get that authorization token. You can see right at the bottom there, I've got, let's just close JUnit, get my authorization token, and then launch a JavaScript Immersive Reader for this text here. So I haven't got, this isn't even accessible. I don't even know it's accessible, but I want to make it accessible. So I've got a little Immersive Reader there, and now I've deployed it to Azure using the Maven plugin on Tomcat using the Eclipse IDE. So we can go into our app services, and here's the little app that I've got there, Tomcat RPZA. It's running, and it cost me $30 a month. I can even make it smaller there. And now I've got my Immersive Reader, and if the demo gods are listening, you can see they're about Immersive Reader, and now I can click on that. So this might not be, if I click on here, let's see if we can actually see, is this accessible? Let's run FastPass, and I've never done this live, actually. No, it's not. It's actually not accessible, but I want to make it accessible. So I want to go back in here, and I want to click on Immersive Reader. Now watch this. You might not be able to hear it because I am using StreamYard. And now I've got...
Immersive Reader is a tool that implements proven techniques to improve reading comprehension for emerging readers.
Let's make that a little bit louder.
And people with learning differences. The Immersive Reader is...
So it'll read it to me, but I can also go in there and I can switch on syllables, nouns, verbs, and go and click on each word there and hear the word or see the picture dictionary. And I can also go line focus, and then I can change the language. Now, we're American. I think this is mainly American conference. I'm going to go into Spanish. So I'm going to go Spanish Mexican. And I'm going to go translate the document. Now, you can do this. And you saw there, I didn't do any translation, but I can do this. Now, the innovation of going for everyone and every organization to be able to use this has now allowed me to become more innovative. Now, I can speak Spanish.
Para hacer que la lectura sea más accesible para todos.
I'm not coding for disabilities. I'm coding for everyone to be able to use my product. And that's what Immersive Reader can do. So with computer vision can take your images, and it's baked into all of the Microsoft products. Immersive Reader also, and it's something that I live and breathe every single day. And you can really get so much more innovation through coding instead of for disabilities, coding for everyone. So let's go play from here. So the last thing I want to show you before we open up for Q&A is conclusion. So in conclusion, empathy, show how you can use your persona spectrums, become the customers and your clients that you're using your system. Shift left, introduce using the DevOps tool chains into being able to test it, use accessibility insights, automate with AI, use Immersive Reader, use computer vision there. And then last, get the badge. So we have an entire training, very easy. It will take you a few minutes. You can go to aka.ms/accessibility-fundamentals, and you can get the badge there, tweet the badge there, tweet me that you got the badge there, aka.ms/accessibility-fundamentals, and review my session. Tell me how you're enjoying this, and tell me if you're battling with anything. We actually have a huge accessibility team at Microsoft. I would love to feedback, and I promise them not only to increase the accessibility fundamentals uptake there, but also to feedback the session review comments that I get there. So empathy, shift left, automate and IO, and I will take your questions exactly 5 minutes over there. Okay, so Philip is helping me there for the questions, and we're going to look at what questions we have here. So we've got quite a few. Wow, there are a lot of questions. Okay, first question we've got, Philip. One thing I love about accessibility, you fix a bug and there are often secondary benefits. Also, congrats on the Xbox Adaptive Controller. Yeah, the Xbox Adaptive Controller is exactly what we did. We have the design principles, and one of them is navigation, if you remember. So being able to navigate your system is very important. So go and try and look at tab stops with your website and see if you can actually navigate and help people to navigate through there. So and next is, how do I get started with improving accessibility for my software project? Thank you so much. That's a great question. So go in and use the accessibility insights just to get a view, a feel for what is your kind of your breadth of what your accessibility requirements are. Now, accessibility insights actually does for Android, CI/CD, GitHub Actions, Windows, and also web. And you can use it with Edge and Chrome, and also you saw there that I did with DevOps. So just get a view for it, get a scoring. As you saw there, I had 44 issues. So I can take those 44 issues and I can start to go slowly, if I can, just to go cut those down. And that's really the first start. You want to know how many issues you've got. Okay, are there any programs that sponsor accessibility improvements? Thank you so much for answering that question. Yes, we have AI for accessibility. It's a fund. It's $1 million fund or more fund that we have at Microsoft that actually sponsors ideas that help and assist with accessibility. So you can go in and onto the Microsoft sites and look up AI for Accessibility Fund that Microsoft has, and it's a great way to sponsor and get started and look at ways that we can help and support accessibility. Do you have any, next question, recommendations for making IDs such as Eclipse, VS Code more accessible? Yes. So a lot of these tools, if not all of them, already have accessibility requirements, but you have to kind of go in and look at them. So if you go into the Eclipse IDE and you look up accessibility, there's, like I showed you there, there's a lot of options to actually go in and change your font color, to magnify, to look at all of the settings you can navigate with your keyboard. So look at those accessible things. And dark mode. Remember when accessibility, when IDEs didn't have dark mode? Now I've got failing eyesight because I've got used glasses, and I love the fact that they brought dark mode in there. And so that's a great way to actually look at it and really have fun with your tools. Okay, so next question. Is it enough to use automated tools to develop accessibility software web applications? It isn't really, because a lot of those, to get completely WCAG 2.1 compliant, AA compliant, you want to be able to use your manual testing, because some of those tools that I showed you there, like even the Maven test that I showed you, will only pick up 25% of those problems. You still need a human to be able to do that. And if you remember on the website that I have here, let's go and click in here. You can actually go in to your settings and you can click on assessment. Now, assessment here, we can go start new, has a full compliance checklist there. And some of those, aren't really technology, but they're technology heuristic engagements there. And these can't be simulated with the DevOps process. So you really want to go into the checks there. Some of them are automated checks, but others you have to do manually. And the last question that we have here, I've got 1 minute. What is Immersive Reader actually doing? How does it help accessibility? So Immersive Reader actually goes in and takes your page and goes in and takes a bit of your page and sends it through to our AI cognitive services and builds up an entire index of the page. And then it goes in and says, okay, I want to be WCAG 2.1 compliant. And how it does that, if we go into Tomcat, this page here, it actually goes in and takes all of this, and it can translate all those languages also at the same time. And if you see, when I click on that, it takes a subset of that page and then goes in and creates an immersive experience. But not only that, it gives you the ability to change text size, the actual, let's go Comic Sans, themes, color that you have here. And then you can go in there. These are a few more options here. We've done syllables. And then you've got picture dictionary. You can switch on and off. But then the language thing is so powerful. We just added Arabic, Chinese, and Hindi, so many different languages here. Nearly all of the languages that you can do. We've got Welsh. Let's see what it sounds like in Welsh. Is it a spoken language there? Yes. No, no one. And now check this out. If you don't want a female, you can actually do a male accent. And I like listening to stuff much quicker on 2-speed. So you can go. Okay, that's a bit too fast. Doing this in Welsh actually sounds a little bit more difficult. But there are so many different options to choose. And I'm thanking you so much for attending. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, David. And see you on Twitter. Goodbye, everyone.